Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us on our fourth and very last core lesson. We've already talked about building a bond and assessing your little friend's needs and expectations and boundaries. So today we're going to tie this all together in one of our favorite topics.
Yes.
Preschool environments. So let's continue. So we're going to be talking about the Yes classroom, what that's all about. We're also going to talk about ECERS, which is a resource that we use. We're going to focus on sensory needs and what that should look like in your preschool environment. And then what a living environment in preschool it looks like as well. So here we go. The Yes classroom.
Oh, one of my favorite things.
I first heard the Yes classroom through Community Playthings, which is actually one of the resources we use in the classroom environment.
Right.
We absolutely love Community Playthings. They have every piece of furniture that I want in my...
Indoor and outdoor.
Indoor and outdoor.
Yes.
I absolutely love everything that they have. But Community Playthings, they really have a lot of resources of how to build. And, you know, they take a lot of different situations and they're like, okay, well, how to build for infants, how to build for active preschoolers, how to build for toddlers.
They even have a school age section.
They do. And so, you know, on their website, you can go on there and they have so many different resources that you can go to and read articles about how to set up these environments.
Which is, again, their niche.
Yes. Love them. So these particular considerations that we're going to talk about right now, I got from one of their articles. It's actually called their Infant and Toddler Spaces, Designed for a Quality Classroom. So there are 8 considerations that they want us as teachers to think about when we're building the environment. And I thought that was a good place to start just because before we move into, you know, making sure that our sensory friends are, you know, their needs are met.
Right.
We need to make sure that the entire classroom is ready, set, go for these little guys. So number 1, safety. So safety is a big deal. This one, I think, is...
A lot of people are involved in safety.
A lot of people are involved in safety.
Yes.
And it's number 1 for a reason.
Obviously.
You want to provide a safe environment where your kids are not going to get hurt, because that's our number 1 job. Is, you know, we always tell our kids, what's my number 1 job? Is
your number 1 job is to keep you safe.
Keep you safe.
100%.
And so, safety, let's talk a little bit about everyone involved in safety.
Oh, wow. I mean, just here in California, if you are a school that's over, if you're a licensed childcare, not family, but if you're a licensed childcare, which we had a couple of those, we had a fire marshal. We had a fire person come out every year, and they would have to inspect to make sure our fire extinguishers were up to code. And then that also involves our fire tech to come out. And that's if you also have, we had sprinklers in our system, so we had to have that fire tech come out. So that's 3 people outside of me that had to keep up with that. The other one is our licensing analyst. We're monitored by Department of Social Services, Community Care Licensing. And we have an analyst that we're assigned to, and through them we're able to know they come do walkthroughs and different things like that, and through them they make sure that we're compliant with Title 22, which is what our governing handbook is for childcare here in the state of California. And then outside of that, if you have a food program that you run through your school, we are currently in a food program in our school, in our baby school here. And we have to, that's another monitor that we have to ensure safety, but this is specifically safety
food,
with food, and proper food handling and different things like that. So, so that's base. Yeah. That's really just base, because the director would be the last person that is in charge of grouping all those people together. Yeah. Because they're the ones that are in charge of the school. And so that's just a small part of adults outside of our school that are helping us
help with safety,
stay compliant. Mm-hmm.
So, safety could also in the classroom look like making sure that all plugs are plugged in. When you think about it, it's really thinking about baby proofing, is I guess
children proofing,
obviously, but just thinking about things that make sure that they're not going to get hurt when they're around an area.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about non-slip floors, stable shelves, stable fixtures, stepped stools that help, kids step up and make sure that's also safe.
We actually, in all of our schools, we didn't actually, and in this one included, we didn't have bulletin boards because it isn't a fact that we don't have to have, but staples were kind of a little bit of a hazard for our babies. And so our analysts never said we couldn't. We just had to be extra careful with those. So we just decided to omit them from our classroom.
Well, staples and push pins.
Push pins are not allowed.
Yeah.
I would only have them in my office, and my office at the time was a closet.
Yeah. Well, I knew of schools that had push pins still, and so
that is not, again, as far as I knew, all my analysts would tell me push pins were a big no, and staples were not their favorite, but I just decided to, there's many alternatives to that, but just for safety reasons, specifically in the baby classroom, in the infant class, in our nursery is what we call it, that is just, that's a big
and we will focus specifically on like baby proofing, safety in particular, in more depth. Mm-hmm. This is just kind of an just overture of what it could look like. But again, just making sure that overall your space is safe. Mm-hmm. Number 2, which can also be considered safety.
Yes.
Is health.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of all the baby proofing and child proofing that you need to do, you need to also make sure that you and your staff are being very cleanly. So there's 2 things. So we talk about cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing. So
which is 3 different things.
3 different things, yeah.
Yes.
So we talked about these things with our teachers and staff even before COVID. Because we were really specific about cleanliness and
this is part of our training.
Making sure that our kids, weren't getting sick at school, because we always, as preschool teachers and educators, we always get blamed for kids going home sick.
It's always our fault.
But that's just a soapbox
topic.
Yeah. So we always made sure that we talked about these things: cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting.
Yep.
All these 3 different things that you need to make sure to do in order for your areas to be clean, especially in the infant room where they put everything in their mouth.
Well, I mean, we had a whole different plan when it comes to their environments, and we'll get into that, their specific health and safety for our little ones. Also with health, and we'll get more into that, I mean, we even went down to the temperature of water. Mm-hmm. If we had, like, everything just had to be just the concentrations, if you decided to do, bleach or different things like that, how often you should disinfect, it can be a bit much. And for those of us, and I can say this in our personal experience, that were doing it before COVID, it was just rolling through.
Yeah.
We added a couple things, but not going back. And I don't know if that was something procedural in public preschools, because we're private.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
but again, we'll continue on.
So again, cleanliness, very, very important.
Disinfecting,
number 2,
sanitizing,
which really goes hand in hand with safety. But so number 3, making sure that your environment is comfortable, and this means comfortable for the little guys, but also for yourself as a teacher,
Agreed.
A staff member, because we roll around with our little friends on the floor, and
yes.
we're sitting a lot,
yes.
and with them, and so it has to be comfortable for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of think about that comfort for all ages. And we work from, infants to
5 years old.
5 years old. So, and then as adults,
yes,
have areas that are comfortable for us to be with the children.
And even just, moving forward for those of us that have staff, comfortable for staff.
Obviously, like for all adults involved in the classroom. So convenience. This actually
this is an interesting one.
Yeah, this is actually specifically for being convenient for our little friends. So making sure, and we've gone into classrooms where toys are high up, and if there's a particular toy that a teacher disliked, they would hide it or, put it high up. So
and somehow it would end up
the kids
behind
couldn't
the trash.
reach it. Convenience for them, the area should have everything at, arm's length. Like they should be able to reach everything. And it's just a space convenient for them to feel, they could play and interact with other friends. So a convenient placement for our little friends.
For their ages. Yeah,
for their
definitely.
age. So number 5, child size space. So it goes, hand in hand. Again, all these things kind of interconnect. So child size space, meaning that the furniture is also kind of appropriate for them as well.
And that's, I think, going back to one of our core lessons where we talked about age appropriate. We talked about that, and I've gone into classrooms, and I won't get into too many details, but I've gone into a 2-year-old classroom where it's like desks and chairs, and I'm just like, okay, well, the majority of things that they're doing age appropriately, they don't have the attention span for that, and they can really get hurt because if they fall over, they love climbing and they fall over, and anyways, it's just that's one of the things that. When you're creating a child space, that is, we should be mindful of doing that, because again, it's reminding ourselves that as much as we love our space as teachers and our classrooms, it's really, really their space.
It is really their space.
And then we can talk about that
now,
later.
I did want to say one thing, because it's a little bit different when you have a daycare.
Yes.
Because it is your home.
Agreed.
So it's a lot different when you're building an environment in a preschool where everybody goes home, a center where everybody goes home at the end of the day, and no one lives there. But in a daycare setting, you live here. So I live here. I live here. So you kind of have to really be really creative with this child space, and what we do here is provide so many spaces for them that they don't even care that there's like a full-size couch there, or
a dining table.
Yeah, or a dining table.
Or a washer and dryer that they're exposed to, like that they have not access to because, it has the child lock, but that they can touch it if they wanted to, but you know what I mean?
It's safe, don't worry.
No, of course.
But again, we provide so many, and some parents are like, wow, they never get into, this or that. No, because they're so involved in all of these other
just to give you a little bit of an idea, out of the years that we've run this home daycare, we've had one thing broken off of her personal collection. It was a little thing, but that's just to give you an idea. And it was probably the friend's first week. But that was it. They're so engaged in what they do that it's just, and again, home centers are so different.
Daycares are different, but it can be done. Mm-hmm. We really focused on making sure that these friends had a child-sized space,
even within an adult space.
Even within
because your youngest is not
teen
under 5.
Yeah. So we haven't had infant furniture, baby furniture, child furniture
in quite a while.
In a long while.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely can be done. Mm-hmm. So number 6, flexibility. I also love this one.
Love this topic
for daycares, but we used to do this also in our centers. These
in both preschool and infants.
In both preschool and infant licenses. So we used to make spaces that we can turn or transform into something completely different depending on...
Or they would have dual purpose.
Or they would have...
Depending on what time it was.
Right. And so, again, you just... Having flexibility in your classrooms is one of those really important things as well, because you're giving opportunity for...
I would even add versatility.
Versatility, I think it goes hand in hand.
If I had to add, this is, I mean, I love this, yes, classroom, but if I had to add one, which flexibility will work as well.
Yeah, so flexibility, definitely make sure that your spaces can turn into some, a different space pretty quickly.
If not just, it's a dual space.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We're queens of dual space.
I love it. And again, working in a center, we learned to really master it. But once we got into the daycare, we were like, wow, we're pretty good at this. So, flexibility in your space is also very important.
Yes.
So movement is also the flow of the way that your classroom, the way that your center, the way that your daycare goes. Movement within all these spaces is also part of a yes classroom. You don't want them to be, doing the wrong thing or, making mistakes, or...
I would even say, and honestly, with movement, transition and timing play a really big role in this movement part. Because in our center, in one of them, and we can get into detail of it later, but in one of our centers, the entire school was used by the entire school.
Yes.
We didn't have specific 2-year-old classroom, 3-year-old classroom, 4-year-old classroom, 5-year-old classroom. And we could talk about that design because it's very intricate. But what I love is that it was so well timed, going back to the routine, going back to the boundaries and transitions, that even the parents would know, oh, okay, it's 9 o'clock. My 2-year-old is in the back and they're doing building. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so they would know, like, on the clock. And transitions we made sure that the flow, one went out a certain door, one went in a certain door, just to keep the movement going. Yes. And if someone were to come in the wrong way, it would kind of like, okay, but we could just move around and we'll be okay. Or we'll just, go out this door instead of this one. And even our babies, because our infant room was in an annex detached from the entire building, we had to get like a stroller, mount all our children in, and roll to the back where the play yard was. Yeah. And again, that was part of movement. Instead of going through the building, we went around. There was trees and it was nice. The only downfall was when it rained. Yes. But we didn't go outside with our littles because, their yard wasn't appropriate for rain. But the movement part, and I remember when we built the schedule, even before we launched the school, because we built that school from nothing. It had no name, it had no children, it had 0 when we bought it. We thought about, okay, if they come out here, if they, we worked with licensing as well about what we can do with these littles, about what's appropriate, if we can take them outside. Yeah, movement is, even then, teachers would come up to me and, Sandra, this isn't working. Yes. This is what's happening. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And we would talk about what tweak needed to be changed. And the children, you would get them involved and they were just like, okay, we have a new routine. And you know what I mean? Again, with movement, it seems like it's an unimportant or lesser than. No. Just for the flow.
It doesn't mean it's
less. It's just as important. Yeah.
And I really think these, they can all co-exchange numbers.
Oh yeah, they can intertwine or add or of course.
Yeah. So number 8 is just as important. We say that about all of them.
How about we just say all of them are important?
They're all important. Number 8 is choice. So in order to have a yes classroom, you have to give these friends choices. You're going to have a lot of battles if they have nothing to do, or if they all want the same thing and you're not giving them other options.
Well, we'll talk about what choices look like in our center versus our daycare versus the infant room versus the toddler.
And even choices when you have mixed classrooms.
Which we do. Again, in our school, we would mix the ages. Because, as the staff is leaving, the classes would get smaller and smaller. And at the end, by 5, because we closed at 6, we were down to having a mix of between 2 and 5.
Yeah.
Which seems like, oh my goodness, how could you pair them up? Trust me, it worked.
Well, in daycare, you have infants. Well, we only go up to 5 years old.
We do. We choose to only go to 5.
Go up to 5. And so
they're all together all the time.
And they're all together. So again, having an environment where all these friends have choices that they can go to without, having not having too many issues, is, part of it is choice, giving them choices.
It's true. I agree.
So these 8 considerations definitely weigh really heavy on a yes classroom.
Definitely.
All right. So how do we make sure that these environments are amazing? Or how do we know that
it's quality? It's
quality.
That it's done well and that we are on the right track.
Or
how can we improve?
And I love this one because with ECERS, which is Early Childhood Environment Rating Scale, with ECERS, this particular resource
is gold. It's gold.
It will tell you work with the environment you have and then how you make it better. And it's so funny because whenever I get a hold of the book, which I read every so often.
Me too.
I'm like, okay, let's see how we're doing.
Yeah.
I always move to the best. And I want to see, okay, are we doing the best? And if we're missing some stuff, I'm like, okay.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, like, okay. So
like it says here that each child should have like between 3 to 5 plushes.
Yeah.
In their environment. That's not my exact. It's verbatim that I'm wording that, but.
So I want you guys to go to visit their website.
If you don't already have the book.
Yes.
Some people already have the book because some in university or college, depending on what program you're in, or if you're done it in a couple, or some schools implement these ECERS. This is a resource you have at hand. I have one in my house. Yeah. You have one here at the school.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
it really is like
valuable.
You want to check in with this amazing resource every so often and really see how your environment is doing.
And just side note, they have one specifically for infants. They have one specifically for school age and specifically for family childcare.
Yes.
Which we're looking at.
Yes.
We actually do both.
We do both. We've worked with specifically the center one, Early Childhood Environment
for many years.
So many years that we're it's ingrained in us. And the one for daycare specifically is a little bit different. Obviously, we don't have the spacing, but it really is still an amazing resource. So
it's very valuable.
So with this ECERS, what it does is it was created specifically for early learning researchers to assess the quality of a program. So in 1980,
someone figured it out.
Someone was like, well, I want to see, like, how can we tell that this is quality preschool or a quality environment in the preschool setting?
For children, for the staff that are in there, for program quality, for furniture, the subcategories that are in.
Well, let's talk about these subcategories.
Oh, well, there you go. Let's do that.
Because, again, they go into so much detail, and this is why we love it. Space and furnishings, which is what we focused a lot on when we talked about what Community Playthings was talking about. But they go into personal care routines, language and literacy, making sure that you have activities that focus on language and literacy, learning activities, interaction between you between you and the children, you and your staff. Yeah, all those interactions. And
trust me, we've done it. We kind of know this.
And then the program structure. So how is it that you're structuring your program, and you know, all these things they have studied for all these years, and all of these things that they are suggesting on here are quality. And
they're ranked, excuse me, they're ranked 1 to 7.
Yes.
So here we have our copy of ECERS, because we have it in our playroom library under adult science.
And you can see that I read it, like, I circle and I'm like, what's going on here? And what can we do? Yeah.
So it does start 1, inadequate, goes all the way to 7, which is excellent. And like Claudia says, I go straight to excellent.
I go straight to excellent. And I really want to see.
No, but sometimes I read inadequate and I'm like, oh my.
Or even minimal.
Work to do.
Yeah, or
minimal.
even minimal. Like, what's the minimum, you know, that you can see, or what things you can see in the preschool that, you know, make this a quality preschool?
Now,
minimum.
I have, before we continue on with ECERS and this amazing resource that we absolutely love, this is not just for directors.
No.
This should be anyone, including parents,
Parents, teachers, educators.
Parents, anyone that is designing a classroom for or a space for children. Mm-hmm. This is really, really awesome. And yes, it's based in classroom, but for me, this is something that is valuable for anybody that is around children, that this is what it is for them to have the most success in a quality classroom. And again, it goes hand in hand. And believe it or not, going back to Community Playthings uses ECERS, and it'll tell you what subsection that specific plaything goes with this. And so you're going to be in compliance. Again, I use it according to what I need, because I have this beautiful thing that I do. But for people that really need a little bit of help with ECERS, it's right there on Community. They really value this as a resource.
Well, I did note on here that it's the most widely used early childhood quality assessment instrument worldwide.
Well, I have words about that. This is actually the dissertation topic, what I'm doing. My dissertation topic is on ECERS, and I willingly chose that because of space and furnishings. Many stories to tell about why. But what I love about this is that this is accessible to anyone.
Yes.
And it is reasonably priced. Okay, I can't remember how much it was, but it's not over $30. And so for me, I don't have to go out and get a program that's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to tell me, I don't know which one we're talking about, to tell me what quality is. This one, why I chose it for my personal topic, is because it's accessible to anyone. Yeah. And that matters to me.
It does.
100%.
Okay, it really
I'm off my soapbox now.
Inclusion. It matters.
Yes.
So, again, ECERS is one of those resources that is an amazing tool to be able to see this,
where you are,
to show,
and it's okay if you're deficient. Nobody's gonna run 7s across the board. Actually, one of my teachers asked me once, really quick story. One of my teachers asked me once, I was getting ready to change some things about the environment. I had noticed that, you know what, we're kind of lacking a little bit. I kind of let that go. I had a couple extra projects, and I remember right before I changed everything, she asked me if she can run the ECERS, if she can walk through, and it took a couple of days and for her to do her final. And, she noticed that we were deficient in some things. And so I sat with her and I talked to her about the plan that me and Claudia had to implement. And she was like, oh, if I would have seen all that, you would have been scored high on everything. And I'm like, that's okay. Because exactly what you showed me that I'm deficient in is what I had already planned to do. So that gives me the opportunity to say, you know what? I was right. I was right that this is where we needed to head. So again, nobody has to be scoring. This is the continual growth of knowing that you're in the right direction.
Yeah. So. And at the end of, or toward, the end of this core lesson, we'll focus on the living environment. And that is part of it.
100%.
It is not something that is stagnant. An environment is not something that should stay the same.
Well, remember that everybody grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody comes in the school year with one, having these needs. And then by the time that they're growing and you're implementing boundaries and you're implementing routines, they're growing and growing. They're going to need more and more. Yes. And so, like you said, I mean, we'll talk about that.
And some environments do work for a while.
Oh.
And by while, I mean 6 months, plus. And some are like, wow,
they didn't make
2 weeks and this was just,
it
didn't work. So,
or, in my experience, where I just really want this area, very self-fulfilling, I want that area to take off and I'm not going to pressure my kids. 0 interest. And so here I go, tucking it away, putting it away for maybe a different opportunity later on.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. And I'm not going to push them. It's a yes environment and they have access to it.
And they had the choice.
And they had the choice. They didn't make it. It was such a not cute, but it was just, anyways, it was just well thought out and planned and they were just not interested. So that's okay. Later on, it took almost a year for them to circle back to something, which is fine. Again, I ended up using it.
We'll talk about the living environment. It's very exciting, changing. Mm-hmm. So, what I do want to focus on before that is sensory needs. So you're gonna have some friends that are diagnosed with a sensory need, with autism. Some friends that aren't, because our kids,
some friends that should be
some friends that you're in the process of. These little friends need something a little bit different within your classroom, because you already have an amazing, quality classroom. But these are little things that will help those friends that have these sensory needs. Now, there are not a long list or anything like that, but there is a list of, specific sensory needs. But I want to focus on 3 of these sensory needs because these are the ones that I think we see the most of. Not that we haven't worked with other sensory need friends, but these we really do see.
We've seen often, most common, right?
Often,
right?
And aside from helping these friends that have the sensory need, it helps everybody. It helps your other friends as well.
Does.
So proprioceptive is the first. So proprioceptive,
big one.
This system gives us a sense of position and movement of our limbs. So I always, because we worked at a center that had like an OT and a PT and,
we had an ST.
We had a lot of therapists that were specifically worked with friends that had sensory needs.
Therapy was in school.
Yes. And so I learned so much.
Loved having them. Yeah, and I loved having them at arm's reach.
And so I had to learn what does, even after the many years that I worked in,
Again,
in early childhood education.
You should always be learning.
I was like, okay, well, what is proprioceptive? So the friends that do have this need, they require extra input to know where their body is in space. So
a friend that's probably bumping into other people, like a friend that's always like bumping in, because again, they kind of need to feel out their space. Someone who's probably rolling on the floor because they don't have grounding, or somebody who just kind of is just a little bit wiggly, just kind of swaying back and forth, or just, those are just a few examples. There's a lot more.
So what you want to have in your classroom for these little friends that need the extra input is wiggle chairs. And if you have, for them to sit at a desk, you can have wiggle chairs. But if they're sitting on the floor, you have wiggle cushions.
We do. We had both. We actually implemented right before COVID, we implemented we call it the rainbow table. Some people call it the kidney table or the bean table. Anyways, our rainbow table only had wiggle chairs. Yeah. And so we had 6 wiggle chairs. And it was really great to see, even for the friends that were not on the spectrum, it was really great to see who had balance and who didn't.
That's true.
Because, for them it was balanced, but for this little guy, he needed
a little
to rock
extra, yeah.
to do his work. So it was kind of nice. It was a double header.
A double yay. So weighted soft toys. So you don't want to, we've always felt like inclusion doesn't have to look like, they have to have something completely different.
Like a medicine cabinet.
Yeah. So we always, purchase things that really fit in a classroom.
They look like plushed animals.
Yeah, so they look like a little teddy bear, and they're just a little heavier.
We actually end up always getting the little soft plush, the weighted toys that were meant for like those aromatherapy ones that are heavy.
But they smell like lavender.
Oh, they smell so good. But what we loved is that they look like they were just carrying a plushie.
Yeah.
And if I can go back to the weighted, to the cushion chairs, we would actually have them in our circle time area in a basket, just like everything else was lined up. And even our friends who were not special needs or sensory needed, they would grab one and just say, you know what, today I want to see what it feels like.
Yeah.
And okay, you can, do you want the thick cushion or do you want the thin cushion? Do you want the bumpy? You know what I mean? So to them, it wasn't like it was foreign, like, oh, let me go to the back and go get it. Or no, it was literally integrated into our space where parents wouldn't even know that it was there. Some staff, when they were newer, it was like, why is this here? And so we would kind of explain and different things like that. So, that's just a little story about the
wiggle chairs and wiggle cushions.
Yes.
So weighted soft toys is another one. These little friends just carry it around and they just need the little grounding. I know that they're also like weighted lap.
Oh yes.
Or
you know which one you can get instead of getting that lap one? You can get the neck one.
Oh yes.
Just put out. It's long enough for a kid.
They do, and
I'm just talking about the purchaser. You know?
And they could put it around their neck, and that would feel kind of nice.
And again, lavender soothing sounds. If that's your thing.
So also a trampoline. Now this can be used indoor and outdoor.
Okay, I know a lot of people are probably like. I understand. We actually had the Little Tykes one that was tiny. And that one, sometimes we would have to roll out, or depending on the space that we had arranged, it was somewhere where they can just run and jump, or not run and jump, but just go and jump on it. And it had like a little thing. We actually had one that your youngest one, my godson had, that it was an exercise one. Those are so sturdy.
Yeah.
And it was meant to exercise for, for people that like to do that, that trampoline exercise. And it was really great because he grew into that one. Eventually he grew out of it. I loved it because it was really sturdy. And again, it doesn't have to be like those 20 feet by 20 feet. It is just something that they need to go and get their wiggles out really quick. Do you need to go jump? It looks like your body just needs a little bit of help right now. Or, you know what? Transition's taking just a little bit longer. If you want to go jump for a couple minutes, I can see you. Well, here in your home, it's a little, I can see you. Yeah. But at the center, let me just get someone to go with you and you guys can just jump. And then you can come back when you're ready, or you can come back when transitions are fine. Again, I love trampolines.
Yeah.
Little, micro, mini.
It's something that you can integrate in your classroom because it is a really great tool to have in there.
Love it.
All right, so small private spaces.
Ooh, love.
Now this one, you do have, like, these friends, they also need to feel a little enclosed sometimes. Now we have a little egg chair, and it's
called the egg chair, but it's not called the egg chair.
Well, it's from IKEA, and I don't know what else to call it. I don't even remember the name that it
has a name. It has an IKEA name too.
It has an IKEA name, but we call it the egg chair.
One of our kids named it a long time ago.
And this one actually works for different sensory needs. Yeah. But proprioceptive is one of them. They could enclose themselves in that little space. And so many times so many times they're just like, I really, they're playing, and then all of a sudden you see it close, and you're like, okay, somebody needed a little, extra quiet time, or, they want to feel tucked away.
It was great.
And so having these tiny little spaces for them, that's just one of the ways that we, because it's so accessible. We have ours outside. We used to have it inside because of the way the environment was, but then the environment changed, so it went outside.
And they love it just as much.
And they love it and use it. Even our infants use it.
With supervision.
But it is an absolutely great
I will buy. That is the one, I guess, if I had to call it a toy or a furnishing, a child furnishing, hands down, if you can get it secondhand, do it, which is how we came about the chair.
This particular one, well, this one, I don't remember.
No, this one.
But you're right. We went to, because we go to a secondhand store that we absolutely love.
A kid's resale.
Gently used toys. And we came across this egg chair, and Jared actually was the one that put himself in there.
Well, and he told me, Dra, I want this. And I'm like, oh, buddy, my car is full. Okay, let's make a plan. And I had to figure out how to clear everything to take his egg chair home. And he was still in the car seat at the time because he hadn't met the weight requirement yet. And here I am loading the car seat, loading all the other stuff I had purchased, and his egg chair. Well, we made it home. And ever since then, it was his go-to. Yeah. Until he couldn't fit. And then we got different things in pop-up. Well, we had the now he does. Yeah. Now he has his privacy pop-up tent. But then for a while you had a hammock, not a hammock, those like teardrop hammock things. For personal, that he had that. Feel enclosed. He had that for a long time. And again, it's the hooks are the hooks are still up there. In case we want to put it back, just in case for friends that he will not be able to get back on, but little friends will if we make the space environment. But that's what I love. And again, he actually started that trend. We had to research where it came from. We had it didn't have a name, it didn't have a tag, it was secondhand, and I just. Again, if you can get a secondhand, but that is the one thing. Oh, take my money. Just take it because it's a phenomenal chair. It is. We're talking too good about this chair
because it's amazing.
No, we love this chair.
But again, if you don't have access to the egg chair, there are many ways that you can do small spaces. We have a little nook in our area. Well, just one of the little nooks. But we have a big squishmallow.
Which, they love that little corner.
They walk over whenever they want to, and they just sit in that little corner. Just sit on the squishmallow and just kind of relax. And you can just see that their body's like...
And I mean, for our infant, they'll literally completely be head to toe.
Yeah, it's a huge squishmallow.
It's the largest squishmallow that we have. And again, of course, our preference is Grogu.
Well, yeah.
That's the one that we bought.
Because Star Wars.
Because of, Star Wars. And so, and they absolutely just go and just plop, take a little breather, take a little rest. Sometimes they take their Chewy. Sometimes they take, sometimes
a book.
Sometimes they take a book. Sometimes they just go in there and just lay flat like that on the Grogu, the Squishmallow, because it's just such a cozy spot for them. And sometimes we as adults sometimes, I use my car when I'm by myself.
Closed area.
Like I'm on my phone, I'm listening to my music. I park a block before my house sometimes, or if not in my driveway, and just quiet. You know what I mean? And so we seek those out as adults. Imagine these littles that need that. And so again, that it's an amazing thing that we absolutely love these private spaces. And again, the egg chair also acts as a private space too, because they can close it and they can be in there. I remember Jared used to be in there with his tablet, and he used to just close the thing, and then when it was lunchtime or breakfast, he would like open it and then like grab his food and then close it again.
They really, again, this is what they need to regulate. So just have it available for them.
Of course.
All right. So yoga balls is one of those that we have had in our space before.
It's a hit and miss.
It really has a lot to do with your environment and if it's has the capacity for a yoga ball, because you need a lot of space for
a lot
movement.
of open space.
Yes, a lot of space for movement, but it can be done, and that's why I put it here as a an option, an idea that you can use, because that is also movement that they love, the input that a yoga ball provides. Again, Jared used to have one as well, and yeah, they just bounce. They lay on their belly and bounce on it, or sit on it.
I found his first yoga ball at the Goodwill.
Yeah, we are big thrifters.
Oh,
big thrifters.
Huge. Don't get me started with that. That's another topic.
So again, if space is provided, a yoga ball is definitely a great option.
Love it. And they have different sizes now too. That
Yes.
Back when Jared was younger, it was like literally the yoga ball. I remember it took
adult
over.
size.
It took over your living room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think 90% of your house was Jared until he kind of grew out and got his own little space that now is his own.
But we have also had it in the classroom.
Yeah.
And again, very great.
Funny thing, if you think about it, every time Jared was done with his sensory,
it would go to the class.
It would go to the classroom, and it would
be
help
used very well.
Oh, it was very well used. And so again, we bought it with dual purpose. Like when Jared's finished, it's gonna go straight to the classroom. And most of his first wiggle chair was in the classroom. His first one. We had one, and then we bought the set.
Like, oh, these are great. 6.
Yes. Yes. Again, our budget went towards inclusion because yes, one friend can use it, but all of them can use it. And then it was so funny because flexible seating became popular.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, guys, we've been doing this for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, everybody has a wiggle chair now.
Which is great.
Inclusion.
Which is great.
I love it. I'm just saying we're first. I'm just kidding.
So the next toy or tool is one that we found later on. Yeah, that was again one of those tools that I found through researching for Jared, specifically for his proprioceptive. But it was an amazing tool. The body sock is what it's called.
He outgrew it so quick.
The body sock is just like literally a sack that that the little friend goes into.
Breathable fabric. Easy access to get out.
It's like stretchy material. I couldn't tell you what it was made of, but like Sandra said, it was stretchable, breathable, and completely safe, obviously, with supervision. But they go into it, and it covers their entire body, and all they're doing is just pushing out and, getting that input inside this body sock. And it was so great for him. It really regulated his...
Well, just to give you an idea how good it is, he doesn't have a body sock for sleep time. He actually has like a slip body.
Yeah, it's like a pressure.
That has worked wonders for you since he transitioned and he's in his own space now. But yeah, it literally is like you're a burrito.
Yes. Yeah.
He slips under there, and it's just the input he needs, and he gets a full 8 to 10 hours sometimes, which is really great.
Yeah,
because for some friends in special needs, sleep is really hard. It
is. And but this body sock, the friends, my goodness,
any friend, and they thought it was awesome.
They got a kick out of it, but it what it provided was the input. It really helped them to recenter and re-regulate to be ready for the next activity. And these are just things that you can provide for them. If they're a little bit wiggly and need a little time, away from the activity, for them to kind of, again, re-regulate, reset, and be ready for, the next activity. So it's just something that you can provide around the classroom, that they can just be like, okay, I'm ready for my body sock. So that's definitely a fun one.
Love it.
So the last one for proprioceptive needs, sensory needs, is the chewy toy. Now this one, I mean, any friend, including infants who are going through their, teething and chewy toys really help focus. Mm-hmm. Any friend.
Sorry. Go.
Chewy toys really help focus any friend.
Yeah.
We use these during circle
from
time.
6 weeks all the way. Just kidding. From the time that they're teething heavily.
Yes.
And for friends specifically that have input needs when they're teething or when they're going through, if they have a little bit of I need to bite, I need that input. Yes. Some friends that do have that need that input when they, I just said it over again. Some friends that need that input when they feel the need to bite. Chewies are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they come, oh my goodness, they're so mainstream now.
Yes.
Back when
which
when
I love because
younger.
Again, 13 years ago.
They
10
came,
years ago, it was a lot harder to find.
Well, we would have to special order shop those. Whereas now, I could just put them on my Amazon cart.
Or Target.
Target has them, if you want that. Or sometimes I went to Marshall's and I found one the other day. But what I love about it is for our littles just to kind of pick it up.
Yep. And we have chewy toys everywhere.
We do.
They can pick one up in any part of the, in any area. And if we see them like putting a toy in their mouth, like, oh, do you need a chewy? And they'll immediately go to the chewy area.
And for the older ones, we have the chewies on the string.
But
don't worry, it has the clip in the back that's default to have, it's a detachment. To unlatch. And so, and they have their little chewy that hangs and they put it. I've even seen chewies that clip for friends that chew shirts. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's like a clippy chewy, and it like clips so that because sometimes we see like the all the way down here because they need that input with the shirt, and so I've seen those, and those are amazing too. But they come. I mean, we even have like a bumpy dinosaur one. Mm-hmm. We have one that looks like a Lego character. Mm-hmm. I mean, a bus one or like the rings.
Well, again, we have them
so
everywhere,
many.
And we just
one that looks like a Lego brick.
Yeah. We throw them in the dishwasher and they are ready for the next day.
They're sanitized and disinfected and clean. All three.
So
love
again,
that dishwasher.
Those are some of ideas that you can add to help those friends with proprioceptive needs. Mm-hmm.
It's true.
So the next one is the vestibular system. So this system provides a sense of balance and information about our body position. It's very similar to proprioceptive, but vestibular really helps balance our body.
And this really helps friends. And when I do this, and mind you, let me go back. I used to have a set that was indoor and outdoor because, this isn't just gross motor that needed to be outside. Yeah. Again, my wood beautiful ones were inside. And the stepping stones. And then also this carried over to when it was rainy. Mm-hmm. And here in Southern California, rain to us is like, we need it. We love it. But we're kind of done after day 4. We're like, okay, we love you. And so it really helped transition to where they weren't going, crazy on a day that was different that we were in outside. Yeah. And so having this vestibular in the classroom where some circle times were vestibular. Mm. You know what I mean? Some circle times were vestibular because I just knew the class was wiggly. Yeah. And so I would have it ready on the go and we would have it all set up and okay, who's the first one? Go. Who's the second one? And keep going. And it just really helped the flow of the classroom. That's for everybody.
So again, these little friends crave spinning, jumping, moving their bodies in as many ways as they can. So that's why Sandra was talking about on those rainy days when they couldn't do this outside, we had to bring it indoors. And so these tools would really help indoors.
And here's another one. I love to see which friends needed more help with gross motor, just as a developmental milestone. How many friends needed gross motor that were typical developing? And you're like, oh, we got to practice some balance. Okay, check, mental check of setting this up. So
Yeah. So we talked about the trampoline, which you can bring indoors. You know, just figuring out the environment for safety, and as well as the yoga ball, as well as the wiggle chairs. Again, very similar to proprioceptive. But the balance beams, again, we have a set outside, and we have one that we can bring inside if we need that. But we actually, I remember we used to do set up like a whole obstacle course. And I remember it only came out during rainy days because we needed them to get their wiggles out. But it was an entire obstacle course where they would have balance beams and stepping stones and little tunnels and the
crawl
little,
over under
and the little pebbles that would tell them, oh, you need to jump, or crab walk, or so all these things that we could bring indoors in order for them to be able to get their wiggles out. But we also talked about the IKEA egg chair because that one can spin. So not only do they have the little private area, which we talked about and we love, they can spin themselves and really meet the need, their vestibular need, because they need to feel the balance in their bodies.
Again, we had the boundary where no one was able to spin another friend on it. That was the boundary. Let me just be clear about that.
Yes.
We had that. I wouldn't even spin the child. No, if they felt the need to spin, they would you'd see the little foot come out and they would do like self-spinning. Or they weren't allowed to like hang out and then spin from it. No, they have to be sitting down. And just so you know, it's not called the IKEA egg chair. That's just what we call it. Although it is from IKEA and it is under children's furniture. It is. Just so you know.
It is. And then we found one more tool. It's called a Billabo. And this one I don't know if you knew about this before, but when Jared was going to kindergarten, they would have these in their yard.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and that's when I was like, what is that? And it's just a little bucket.
It looks like
chair,
a turtle's back.
Yeah, like a little bucket that you sit on the floor, but it's like it needs for you to balance in order for it to spin. And it's so funny watching them try and figure this out. But once they figure it out, wow.
They go really fast.
Yeah, they can spin themselves.
Really. Which is great for me because I'm like, yay, core. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yay, vestibular.
And even our little friends are able to figure it out.
The youngest ones, my toddlers right now are mastering how to sit in and get out without rocking over.
Yeah.
Which is a start.
Yeah, because the older friends, they see the older friends and they're spinning.
They want to get. They will get there, and they have like little holes where they can put their handles and then just spit. I'm telling you, they can get really fast.
Yeah,
it's really cool to watch,
and it's actually pretty small.
It's not big.
You can fit it. Again, providing the space indoors if you had to, but outdoors is absolutely amazing. Phenomenal. Especially if you have space. Challenges when it comes to your yard,
and they are stackable if you have multiple. Just saying.
Yes, yeah. So Billabo is another one of those really fun toys that kids love and get their
we love
vestibular input. Yes. All right, so we focused a lot on oral sensory already. So these friends require input to in their mouth to self-regulate. So again, you want to provide chewy toys everywhere. Chewy toys, and when you see that they're gonna need, they keep putting their hands in their mouth or other toys in their mouth, or when you have challenges with biting friends, then they need that input.
This entire oral sensory works for friends that do need that input and that have been known to bite. That goes along with routine as well as stressors and environment. And that's what we can have a whole discussion about biting. Biting and environments. That's actually a good topic. But what I love about these, the chewy toys, and then moving down a little bit, jumping ahead to the crunchy snacks.
Yes.
Oh, I have so many successful stories from these outside of personal snack. because, you know, you have your snack time and then you have, but some friends get a little bit low blood sugar a little bit faster than other friends. Their metabolism works different. I mean, I don't really know.
Or they just require more input.
So we would have something called the blue box. It's just the color that I got from Lakeshore, like with the lid. It isn't that it was a specific, but I would fill it up with things that I know, and I would make a plan with their parent and say, what is appropriate for me to put in there for them. And I wouldn't require the parent to bring it in. This is us as a school. We picked up the tab and we said, okay, we're going to provide this. And so the friend would take their blue box. They would call it the blue box. Everywhere. Outside, inside, classroom. And then when we made a plan, all the staff knew. I mean, again, I was a director. I was in charge to fill it up. I was in charge of his snacks. But he would know that anything in that box, he was allowed. He was allowed to have. And so it was really, really great because sometimes he just needed that thick pretzel, you know, that really thick one to chew on. And mom was conscious about sugar, so I tried not to have as much sugar, or I would do like little water bottles. And I mean, he thought that was the coolest thing, that it was just this teeny tiny little water bottle, and you know what I mean, that he got to drink out of. And it's just, again, things that were approved by his parents, but that really made his day successful, was really, really great. And again, that's just, people can choose baskets, people can choose, you know, their lunchbox, or we actually did one with a lunchbox because this friend had school lunch, so he didn't have a lunchbox. So we would put all his blue box treats, is what we call them, inside of that school lunchbox, and it wouldn't leave, but it was his.
Yes, I do.
And you know what? And he would carry it everywhere because it was his school lunchbox, and he would absolutely love it. And everything that was inside was approved by grandma, and it was approved by us, and he just felt so empowered. Yeah. But more so, he got the input that he needed.
Exactly. And then there's two other ones that I put on here. Again, just a small list. Bubbles is actually a great input for friends because they're working on their oral motor skills. So, and who does not love bubbles? Like, bubbles all our friends, you know, are excited when bubbles come out. So, it is something that you have to help them, or, you know, teach them that it's not something you're going to blow bubbles for them. They have to work on it.
You do for a while with the babies.
Well, again, the infants. But even some of our infants are interested in doing it themselves.
That's true. They are practicing.
Which is great. But for our older friends that need that input, you know, all right, here's the bubbles, and then we're going to, you know, practice blowing, and it's really great input for them. And then gum is one of those things that is a little controversial. There's some educators, some parents that feel like, no way on gum. But if you teach your friends, older friends that understand that you can't swallow, it's not food that you swallow, chewing gum is absolutely
It's
amazing.
beautiful. I mean,
resource.
Jared had gum. We checked with his pediatrician first.
Well, and his
before we introduced
his
it.
PT would
his
would
PT
tell us,
recommended it as well.
Yeah, like, oh, you should use this particular chewing gum, because of the input that it would give them.
And in his stuff, he always has gum. Each of our cars, everybody's car has gum. Our purses have gum. Like, we have gum accessible to him at all times, because sometimes it's just, he just pops one in and he kind of just re-regulates. So.
And it really is helpful. And for those friends that maybe have outgrown the chewies, gum would
be the next step.
Yeah, gum is an absolutely great option.
Again, you said yes, so we were okay with that.
And it's something that you have to definitely talk to parents about.
A lot of boundaries with it.
You know, a lot of boundaries. You have to teach this.
But there is a way that I was trained to train them on gum, because there is a way to train.
Yeah.
And one of them is it has to be a specific flavor, a specific brand. Is until they understand the purpose of gum and how they could help it. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting, but it can be done. And
it's a great resource.
It's an amazing resource. And it's a very affordable resource, too, because it's just gum.
Yeah. So, we have already talked a lot about a living environment. This just means that it is alive and ever-changing. because that's what an environment should be. It should never be something that you set up once and it stays exactly the same forever.
For 30 years.
It is something that should be changed according to signs and environment. It might not be working. Kids are no longer engaged. Kids are getting hurt. Kids are hurting each other.
That means there's no engagement.
Those are a few things that you're like, this isn't working anymore. There's too much going on here. Some of these things are happening too often. Let's reassess. So here, this is what we can do. First, we observe. We're going to observe what's happening. Where are the triggers? What's happening where? You want to communicate with your team and parents because something might be happening at home that triggers specific friends. So you want to make sure that you're, assessing that challenge so that you can provide something in the environment that helps. So you're observing, you're assessing, and then with this assessment of what's happening in your classroom, you're going to set new goals.
You could assess, Drew.
Assess. So you want to set new goals. And you already told the story of, look, I already knew what was happening. I had a plan already when this teacher, did
literally going to do it the next weekend.
So you had goals. And you're like, this is what's the new environment is going to look like because I want this to be the goal.
Well, I see that these are needs. And so it wouldn't get to the point, and this is just how I train my staff. It didn't get to the point where the ambulance was called or a parent came irate with it got to the point where it was just too many incidents all in 1 week. Yeah. If I had more than 3 incidents in 1 week, my red flag as a director would go up. Let me see where this happened. Let me see where this happened. Let me see where this happened. And sometimes it was it was just accidents. Yeah. But sometimes I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. And so, having that assessment part where I talk with my staff, and in our center, we chose to be in charge of environments while we train our staff. And then once our staff was tenured, then we can bounce ideas and they would say, well, this is what's happening in the classroom. This is what I'm observing. What can we do? And then again, they're tenured. They know the way we work. They know, or what our philosophy is. They know we have a flexible classroom and a yes classroom. And so it was an easier understanding when we're training them. That's a little bit different because, they want like rainbow and they want like a million chairs and everybody have a cubby. No. So, it's one of those things once you know the culture of our school. Yeah. But when it came to having too many accidents at once, we would get into what are we going to change before we got to the, oh my goodness, we have an irate parent. They just pulled, DSS is being called, the whole 9, which is, Department of Social Services. Parents can call and complain at any time. Yeah. And so to me, having that constant assessment and really making the teachers a part of my team, we are a team. You know what I mean? And making them, what isn't working? Tell me, because sometimes, I'm an owner director. You know what I mean? And I'm in the classroom because I was the opener. So my opening routine might look like different than the afternoon. Let's talk about it, so again, that was just something that for me as a director immediately triggered. Yeah. This is happening too often. And before I get to that end point of having 3 bites in 1 day, let's talk about what's happening. Yeah. With bite 1, 6 months ago. Just saying.
Yeah. So again, communication, open communication with your team, with parents if need be. Really assessing what's happening and then setting a goal. Like, okay, this is what I want to happen. So then you reorganize. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the next reorganization is what's going to work, but you're going to, again, do the same thing, communicate, reassess.
And here's the great thing is that if it happens again, you can go to your team and your parent and say, not this, it's just an example of a notebook. This is what we've done.
Yes.
We've done this, we've done this, we've done this, and guess what? There's a next plan. Hopefully you won't get to plan 4. Yeah. Hopefully you've gotten experienced enough to get to plan 2 and make it work. Just because your children have outgrown the environment, which happens. That's why I have a lot of words about nurseries and homes. They get outgrown real quick. But we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
Anyways.
There is something that I know that we have learned, through our years of being educators, and that's you want to keep what is working.
Yes.
Because you don't want to change an environment completely. That would really, dysregulate your friends that are used to the routine, that are used to, what's happening every day, normal, everyday things. So you want to keep what's working. Mm-hmm. But you want to change the few things that aren't. And that's why the observation really is important. You want to make sure where the triggers are.
Here's another thing that I found is that we actually built a playhouse it was too big to build it and put it in. We built it inside of the environment. And we were having, a little bit of an issue with it getting a little bit broken, or just toys were missing. And so we decided that, instead of going into the next accident of someone flipping out of the house or just breaking a door and then landing on a piece of wood, or, again, we're directors. We can think about creative ideas and how children can get hurt. And so before that, we as a team came together and we're like, you know what? We're limiting the amount of children that are going in just for their safety. Again, number one is safety. Not the fact that I got a great deal on this cottage on Costco.com, but it was because I wanted to keep it for a long time, but it was because of safety. I know that this can go really bad really quick. Yeah. So let's limit the amount of children. First, we started with 2 friends. It was big enough for 6. But it was just, children could just get so excited they're in an enclosed space. Yeah. It was really cool and private, and this cottage was amazing. An adult would fit in there with 2 children. So I just felt that, you know what, let's just start with 2, and if it works out, maybe we'll try 3. Yeah. If not, we'll go back. It never made it past 2. Yeah. It's just, that was for safety. And then we would rotate and have a timer and just... we just made, and the environment didn't change. The boundary did. Yeah. That was all that needed to change. Yeah. So that's just an idea of what this
keep what is working. Exactly. Right. And then you change what isn't, because that's the trigger. Mm-hmm. So reorganize, keep what's working, and you have to be patient. You just have to. You have to let it flow for you to see if your new reorganization is working.
Now, here's another thing that I used to do. I mean, I still do now, where sometimes I would purchase something new and I would leave it either on my desk or near my door, or I would leave it in the area it was supposed to go in, but it was still sealed. Yeah. And they would just, wow. And I would let them see the box. They weren't allowed to open it because it wasn't set up yet. And then the discussion, well, where are we going to put it? Well, I don't know where we're going to put it. Where do you think we should? Where does it fit? Where does it go? And I would constantly be rotating, because Claudia and I, we don't replace toys. We rotate them. Yeah. And so one toy that we see that isn't really doing well anymore, we just put it away, and then we add. But before we do that, we add something new. And so I would introduce it that way, and they would be so excited to wait for that day that the unveiling came of the toys. And they were sealed, but they could still see what it did. They flipped it over, and it has the people playing with it, and they were just really excited. But what I loved is that they became a part of the transition in the classroom. Yeah. They became, and I remember they would tell me, Teacher Sandra, I think that I like these a lot, and I don't have enough for my friend. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. Yeah. And sometimes I'd be like, well, that friend can wait. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I think we should double our set. Magnet tiles. We literally had 4 sets of the jumbo set. Yeah. Because that's how these toys are. And it wasn't because I needed to limit it. It was just I needed to add it on. But again, nobody fought. Literally every child had an opportunity to play with them. And the classroom was peaceful.
Yes. That's the whole point right here. enjoy, because that's the whole point of an environment, is for your friends to be regulated, engaged, happy, and for you to be able to have this time to bond individually with each one because they're all engaged.
We get to play.
Yeah.
We don't have to be enforcers. The Yes Classroom is my ability to observe and assess my kids.
We just
to
facilitate.
watch them, just to watch their play and watch, make sure that they're being safe and and have a clean environment, because that's another thing that what we would do is while we were observing, we were disinfecting and clean. Again, this is pre-COVID, so we would make sure that we wouldn't get to those really, really big boo-boos. Yeah. And make sure that they had a Yes Classroom and a peaceful classroom for them and for us.
Definitely. So, preschool environments. You want to create a Yes Classroom? You want to take advantage of all the amazing resources. ECERS is our favorite, but I know that there's other resources out there that help you build.
Well, there's entire accreditations that
build environments. So yeah, take advantage of those resources out there available for you as educators, and then make changes to fit the needs of your kids. Make sure that the environment changes according to what they need, and that way it's always going to be a place that they're engaged, a place that they're learning, that they're playing, interacting, socializing.
And then just so you know, on and this could be another topic for a different day, this definitely can be translated into the infant classroom.
Yes.
I've done it for many, many, many years. We've had multiple centers with infants, and this is just a tad bit different because they grow up so quickly.
Yeah.
They go from 6 weeks to 18 months to 24 months very quickly. But it looks very similar. So again, a Yes Classroom can be done for infants.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that was our exciting trip through our core lessons. I really hope that each of these things really help you start building your inclusion classroom. It really is exciting for us to share the things that have worked for us. And that's why we wanted to, make sure that all of you knew,
how we start, what we do,
what our experiences are. Mm-hmm. And we would love to hear ideas that you have or do in your classroom,
or maybe some sensory items that we're missing that we would love to incorporate.
I always love hearing, things that other teachers, educators, directors
success in their classrooms
do.
Yes.
So definitely, email us, preschoolchicas@gmail.com, and join us for more inclusion classroom lessons, because we have so much that we want to share.
Definitely.
Thanks again.
See you then.